New era in supply chain planning. Are we ready? We're here to answer that question for us. Alex Pradhan, new product strategy leader at John Galt Solutions. Alex, good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you for having me today.
You know, we talk about this new era in supply chain planning. Certainly it's going on, but I guess the question is, why? What's happened? What's the catalyst there?
Yeah, I think certainly if you look at the last 2 years, COVID has been one of the biggest catalysts of, frankly, I think across all industries. But I think it's not just these ongoing disruptions that we're seeing today. You also have to just look at the new talent pool that's coming. A lot of these digital native planners that are frankly used to operating an environment just as if they were on their iPhone. You also have a lot more data than, we continue to see a lot more data, right, coming in from IoT sensors, POS, and organizations are sitting on so much data today. So there's all of these new aspects of supply chain that we're seeing, whether it's new crop of planners, ongoing disruptions, financial volatility, a lot of change that's happening today. And I think this is, frankly, we're kind of going into a new era right now.
You know, Alex, you mentioned the labor force and how digital savvy it is. But here's a question. So many companies, so many industries are having difficulty recruiting talent these days. Are you finding that in the supply chain planning space, or is that not the case? Do you have are you be able to recruit the kind of folks that you need?
Yeah, certainly what we're seeing with many of our customers is that they're all having, I think, a lot of tough time right now, not just recruiting, but also retaining. You have the older generation might be retiring, the newer generation is coming. We're also seeing a lot of talent moving across different companies. So I think certainly this is, top of mind. And supply chain has always been hot. And I think it's an area that is going to continue to gain importance. So there's certainly a lot of shifts that are happening, and this is an area that is important.
You know, you mentioned supply chain and how important it is. Somebody mentioned earlier today that it is the most important job that most people, until the pandemic, had never heard of. I guess the question to you is this: where is supply chain going?
Yeah, gosh, if I think about just some of the shifts that are happening today, right now, we're seeing a lot more conversations with chief financial officers that were perhaps in the past, it wasn't as important. And certainly, it always has been important, but I think it's a lot more top of mind. We're seeing that right now. You just have to look at, with all the supply chain disruptions, perhaps last year, a lot of companies went ahead and decided, let's bring in a lot more inventory because we don't know when we're going to be able to go ahead and secure some of those raw materials. We don't know when we're going to be able to, when this inventory might arrive on sites because of a lot of the transportation challenges. And now, right, as we're seeing consumer behaviors shift, what's happening? A lot of these chief financial officers might have to write off a lot of inventory. So it's almost the classic bullwhip effect. And so certainly, the alignment into financial planning is becoming a lot more important. I think also being able to truly get visibility, and I think it's a term that's thrown out a lot, but being able to truly understand and look at your entire supply chain, look at where is everything moving, and what are those insights, what are those decisions that you need to make. So I think we're seeing, to your point, where is that supply chain going? I think there's a lot of different paradigm shifts that are happening in the last several months, if not several years.
Would you agree that the new normal is one of almost continual, certainly change, but the disruptions that we have seen in the last couple of years, certainly we're not out of the pandemic, certainly the war that we're seeing that's going on in Eastern Europe, various other things. Do you see this disruptive type of event being the new normal going forward? Is the supply chain going to be dealing with these kinds of things down in the near term?
Absolutely. And I think we've always dealt with disruptions. There's always been earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes. But I think what's made it even, we're seeing the frequency and I think the intensity of those disruptions more so it's because all the supply chains obviously are interconnected, highly interdependent on one another. I think this is something where if I think of a lot of supply chain leaders and chief supply chain officers, it's a moment of reflection for a lot of them, right? Where this is, I think, the new world that we're going to be navigating is definitely where there's ongoing disruptions. And it's not just disruptions in terms of supply chain shocks, but if you think about how consumer behavior is changing, we talked a little bit about talent, right? The new crop of talent that's coming. So I think there's a lot of these different forces that is happening. And sustainability, I mean, that's now starting, I think, to even become, and it should be even more important. So
new pressures of all
lots
kinds.
of new pressures that I think in the past, supply chain was more back of the house, maybe seen more as a cost center. Now it's a revenue generator.
Advanced technologies that you see perhaps around the corner that are going to be entering the market and making a difference here, what would they be?
There's a lot of different technologies out there. You can talk about digital twins, composability, obviously AI and machine learning. I think the question should not be, are they going to be making a difference, or which are the new ones that we should be looking at, but rather, which are the ones that are going to give you surplus value, right? Which ones are really going to be giving you that value add? Because it's not about just looking at all of these and cobbling them together, but really, I think being very strategic and what are those different types of technologies that are really going to go ahead and revolutionize and continue to revolutionize the supply chain. Certainly, we're seeing a lot of interest with digital supply chain twins. The theme of composability, being able to assemble bits and pieces of your supply chain as you want to see it, is becoming very important.
Sure. I want to get to in just a moment John Galt itself, talk about the company. But final question before we do that. In this new era, as we're calling it, of supply chain planning, success, what does it look like?
When I think about success, I think this is an area where we need to start thinking about how do we start focusing on, we know our supply chains are connected. We know we are going to continue to become highly interdependent, but how do we look at truly connecting people, process, technology, and time, right? And really we talk about connecting operations, data, and decisions. I think that is critical as we start thinking about the next several years.
Okay. Now, there may be somebody out there who's unfamiliar with John Galt Solutions. I don't know, but if there is, that person may want to know just what does the company do and what does it do for its customer base. What would you tell them?
Yeah, John Galt Solutions, we're a comprehensive end-to-end supply chain planning solution. And our area of focus is, with many of our customers, is helping them really solve those complex challenges. Let's focus on what are your critical needs today, but also, as you talked about too, it's a new era, right? There's all these changes that are happening, and let's also help you chart that future. So that's an area that we focus on, comprehensive portfolio, and looking forward to helping companies, especially during today's times.
Well, I think you may have helped somebody today in talking about this new era. Thank you for finding the time to speak with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's Alex Pradhan, John Galt Solutions, speaking with us today about a new era in supply chain planning, perhaps at your company. Thanks for watching.